Alright guys, HyDra and I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. It's the match day that we've all been waiting for. OpTic versus Falcons coming up this evening, with the OpTic boys dropping a podcast last night calling out many of the over-analysing that they see going right now on in the Call of Duty scene around their performance, but seemingly extending this frustration to the likes of aBeZy and even the likes of Crimsix, giving his perspectives on their breakdown over the last couple of weeks. This has definitely caused some controversy among the fan base, given that if OpTic theoretically want to stop people talking about their losses, probably they should stop losing. They've got a chance to do that tonight. Very much interested to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Plenty to get into today, of course. We're going to start with YodaKing because challenges has been pretty interesting over the last couple of days. This is a legendary clip that some of you guys may or may not have seen of when YodaKing was walled bouncing basically all the way across the map here on Fringe, and Killer 2013 Call of Duty World Champion. At this point, of course, the game had gone into jetpacks quite substantially. Was pretty mind-blown about it. But speaking of YodaKing, of course, fast forward to the present day, he is looking to get back into the CDL, and he's making a good step to do so, right? Because Major 2 in Dallas in a few weeks' time is going to be massively important for the pros, but also for the Challengers teams, right? Because if you win the Challengers event in Dallas, it is very, very likely you are getting signed into the league. And YodaKing's team is looking good in the Elite right now. There are other teams also looking good, but as YodaKing says, GG's are the teams we played, won 3-0-3-0, start the Elite Series 4-0, and if you guys have a look at this, the group standings in North America, OMIT Brooklyn, which of course is YodaKing's team, currently started off hot 4-0, with the other OMIT team in Group B, Fellows roster still, they're 4-0 as well. So yeah, OMIT cooking in both groups here so far. We'll see what happens, of course, over the coming days and weeks and when we get to the major. This was interesting as well because we saw YodaKing, the discussion around him as a player and that team really has been that his search is great, 1.3s in search, but his respawn not so much. That's not necessarily untrue, and they're playing a roster here in this Pinnacle team that, okay, not full of names that you'll have necessarily heard an awful lot about, but they did put them in the 30-point club. So, yeah, Stanley went 22-3 this map, and they put them in the 250-31 on the Hacienda. So that was a talking point of last night. And actually, speaking of YodaKing, he had some serious money on the line last night against Shotzzy. They're playing a bit of a chow. And, well, HyDra did a great job. So this kid, I think he's maybe 18, really young. He's been playing a lot of the 8s, of course, over the last few days. I love the way that he approaches this 1 versus 3. This is against Scrap, Shotzzy, and Real. And he makes his way up top, gets the first kill, checks the bomb, then obviously baits it out, makes the full flank all the way around, gets the second kill as well onto the guy that eventually goes to defuse it, and clutches a nice 1 versus 3 here on the Hacienda. So yeah, just some names to keep in mind, and eventually he dies, but it doesn't matter because there's not enough time on the clock left to win the round. And as the Money 8s come to a conclusion, Shotzi's team went up big time and then they just threw pretty hard, and eventually it was YodaKing's roster that got the victory. But what I wanted to dive into here was some of the drama with the main OpTic team, because they of course play tonight, and it's a very important game indeed. We'll see some evidence of that here in a second. But over the last few days, understandably, with OpTic starting 0 in 9 map counts, like, they've not won a map since January, like something like that. Maybe they won a map on like the 1st of Feb or something, but like with all intents and purposes, they've not won a map this entire month. Like, it's not great, and understandably, people have been criticizing their performance. We saw aBeZy obviously do so, legendary player, multiple champion, and knows how to play COD. Has he played this game on a professional level? No, but you could argue neither has Karma, right? He might be the coach for OpTic, but, you know, we'll get into that discussion in a second. So aBeZy gave his thoughts on it. He was especially critical of some of the plays that Pred was making on the map, as of course was Kremp, right? Kremp did a full analysis really on a few of their moments. Certainly the map 1 hardpoint, also the control, some of the decisions they made, not exactly ideal. And look, he mainly was looking at some of the plays that Pred made on the map, but it was pretty much the entire team that Kremp was critical of. We looked at lots of his analysis over the last few days, and Kremp giving his perspective on his team, right, his org, to try and help them improve on some capacity. We talked about what they might do about that. So anyway, OpTic dropped a podcast last night, the most recent game chat show, before they're going to crack back on. And of course, people are going to look at this and they're going to say, oh, well, the body language, Kenny doesn't look like he wants to be there. Like, you know, I see these comments every week. To be honest, Kenny, he just wants to play COD, I think, and try and win again. I'm not sure, you know, I don't think he's the biggest fan of sitting down running these podcasts necessarily, so I feel like this isn't necessarily a new thing. But obviously, when you're 0-9 map counts, the vibes maybe aren't going to be what they could have been otherwise, but the boys are still laughing and joking and getting along, and fair enough. But maybe some would say laughing and joking a bit too much, because obviously at the moment they are in a pretty precarious position, to say the very least. So the guys were discussing lots of the analysis that's been happening of their gameplay over the last couple of weeks, and talking about people, you know, that don't really know what they're talking about, discussing the matches. And, you know, on some level, fair enough. If I was a pro, I would feel the same way about people who aren't pros. I think that's true. But then again, if I'm watching a footballer, he could have passed to his teammate to score into an open goal, but instead he had a shot and missed. Like, you know, that's a mistake, and anyone can see that that's a mistake. So to me, it's not like COD is rocket science, like, in my opinion. You know, this isn't League of Legends or some game that's a bit more complicated. I think any fan with some experience playing and watching COD can at least look at a moment in hindsight and say, hey, look, that looks like it was probably a mistake. Now, making those decisions in the moment and understanding it on the fly, that's what separates the great players from those that don't necessarily play. But I don't think you necessarily have had to have been a top level pro to at least have some understanding of COD, and also some understanding of, you know, where mistakes were made. But some people that definitely have a great understanding of this are people that have actually played the game at a high level and won multiple world championships, and Crimsix falls into that category. So I wanted to share this clip here because it caused a lot of drama last night, really, because people are looking at the way that the OpTic guys are approaching this and saying, you know, hang on a second, maybe instead of criticizing Kremp, and, well, he obviously throws Kremp into this categorization, maybe win some maps.
And then we have Porter, ESPN analyst, trying to fucking...
that we got ESPN analysts coming out.
I was crying when, like, yesterday I was talking to Ian, and then we went back to the room, and then the first thing AG says to him is, fuck it, we have Stephen A and fuck it. He's like, fuck me, like, ESPN analyst. And then Ian's like, you guys are fucking trolling.
Nah, it's just funny. Like, whenever we lose, that's when I see, like, everyone come out of the closet, dude. Like, so much shit just starts. I'll go on Twitter and I see people I've never seen talk in my life. Wait, what the fuck did they do on this P2 here? Like, what happened here? I don't think the vibes are good. And then
it's actually crazy the way, like,
different. I feel like people, like, hold us at, like, a higher standard, so, like, they're gonna talk about us regardless. Yeah, like, we have, like, bro, we haven't won a map, so, like, I understand it, but, like, people becoming analysts and trying to analyze the game.
Yeah.
Especially people who don't even play the game. To me, it's crazy. Like, I get it, like, obviously people know their game, and, like, Porter obviously has won the most, but, like, not even just Porter in general. There's just so many videos of people just, like, trying to analyze the game, and, like,
everyone's trying to apply for ESPN at this point. I swear to God, every fucking game.
It's like, okay, bro, we haven't won a map. We obviously know, like, we should be winning. That's the main thing. We should be winning. Like.
So I'd hope that this isn't indicative of, like, a wider problem, but I do think that I understand why people are looking at this and saying, look, guys, you've literally not won a map this whole month. All you've got to say is, like, yeah, look, we need to get better. You know, obviously we're not playing the game in the right way. We're listening to some of the criticism and we're trying to improve and all this. Kind of blowing it off to say, well, the likes of, okay, Kremp, they can never criticize super directly because he's Kremp. But Pred obviously was saying, I think he was implying Enable maybe, because obviously Enable was also giving commentary, but Enable's also won lots of events in cards, did it in Halo as well. And he's an absolute esports legend in many respects as well. And okay, maybe they were talking about others that are not necessarily former pros, and fair enough, but still there was seemingly an implication there that those guys don't really know what they're talking about because they're not playing the game at this level. Okay, fair enough, but, like, do OpTic know what they're talking about either? Because right now it doesn't really look like it, based on what's happened over the last few weeks. And as I said earlier, right, like, if you're going to criticize the likes of Crimsix, the greatest player ever statistically, 3-time world champion, 38-time champion, then, you know, for not playing the game because he's not played this game professionally, but obviously he still knows COD, then what does that say about your own internal structure? JP has been their coach and now is kind of like their assistant coach, analyst, whatever you want to say, but you know, he's, you know, with all intents and purposes, a stats guy, but I'm sure he understands COD at a very good level because he watches it all the time. He does his own analysis of gameplay on his YouTube channel and stuff like that, but he's not been a pro. So what does that say, right? When, I don't know, when the players are saying, oh, you've not played before, you don't know what you're talking about. If I was JP, I'm sitting there thinking, like, you know, they're talking about me. Maybe they don't respect my opinion. And Karma, for all, you know, he's won. obviously he's not played this game either on a competitive level. So I don't know. I just found the whole thing rather interesting. And as I said at the start of the video, right, at the end of the day, if OpTic don't want to get criticized for losing maps and losing maps badly, then they just need to start winning maps, right? Like, I think when you're in a slump, you've just got to accept it and just say, yeah, we're playing bad. We're going to try our best to get out of it. Coming in it with like this attacking mentality, I don't think really looks good on anyone. That's my opinion. But look, this is their run. Yeah, they've literally not won a map this month because they lost to the Ravens on the 31st of January. So it has been a month since they've won a map. So, I don't really think they have any right to say that much. The issue is for Kenny as well, is that for all that's been discussed about him and, I still believe that Kenny can be and should be a very important facet to OpTic's future success. But obviously his individual performance is effectively impossible to defend. If you looked at a player with Kenny's numbers and it wasn't Kenny, it would be difficult to understand them staying in the league at the moment, right? Because if you go and look at the KDs in the league at the moment, Kenny has the worst KD of anyone who is still in the league. King of Body's gone. Super played one series because he subbed in for Metals. Roxas is gone. Hicksy's gone. So, his KD is worse than Dahoom and Wixel. And, obviously Paul X has been making strides as well lately. And Sib went from having a 0.7 at the start of the season. Now he's at a 0.97 and has made some serious progress. So, and it's not just... It's not like his engagements are super high numbers either. So, yeah, just a really interesting predicament, I think. And understandably, this tweet from Shah Madrid, whether you think it's fair or not, it got thousands of likes. People were talking a lot about it yesterday because I think when OpTic were 0-6, when they had that 0-6 weekend, I was expecting a little more humility. And then certainly after they lost last weekend, I was expecting a little more. But it doesn't seem to have happened yet. And maybe they're making enough progress behind the scenes in practice. They are still the reigning world champions, this roster of 4. They know they've still got the potential in there. But clearly, they've got a lot to work on. And I do think that Krim and Enable made very valid points in terms of the way that they were not addressing the game in the right way. But it wouldn't be that hard for OpTic to say, yeah, you know what, they made fair discussions and we're working on trying to implement what we can into our gameplay to make it as good as possible. But, that's not what was said. So this evening, Vegas Falcons play OpTic Texas. And again, sensational graphic here from the Vegas Falcons Twitter guy. And they're serving up the Burger Bowl menu right for this evening. So we got the Falcons dish, we got the Green Wall dish, same points, but more map wins. So because Falcons have won 2 maps this stage, OpTic have currently won a grand total of 0, but it's a big game today, of course. I mean, the chances that OpTic lose to Falcons, I don't know, what do you want to say? 10%, 5%, 1%? I don't know. It's got to be down there, right? Like, they will win this series. They certainly will win some maps in this series, right? So what I've been discussing in this video, may not apply after today in terms of being winless in terms of maps, but it is Falcons, right? Like, if OpTic come out on 3-0 Falcons, okay, it's not necessarily impressive until they play a team like Ultra. If they beat Ultra, then, that's definitely a good step. Beating Falcons today, if they do, shouldn't mean much, but how close the series is, and just watching OpTic on the mini-map is what I'm going to be doing a lot of today. That may be somewhat telling, because if OpTic are making bad plays, but just bowling Falcons over because they've got more talents, then... that's still a bit concerning in my opinion. But these are the games of tonight. The COD League, for some reason, haven't even done like a graphic announcement on what the games are, so I've got to do it from Breaking Point as ever. But these are the 4 games. So Heretics played Gentlemates this evening. That's a Gentlemates we think with Priestahh back in, with Skyz gone. Who's the favourite there? You've got to lean Miami's way, I guess, but, maybe they'll keep improving with Luna's in the team. Then OpTic play Falcons. That's the second game of the day. Then Boston Surge. Got to lean Surge's way on recent performance. And I do like the look of the last series of the day. Rocker versus Cloud9. Great series on paper. Tough to call. In recent form, I'd probably lean the way of New York. I think they've looked, when they've been on, they've looked pretty devastating. In 5... do I have faith in Cloud9's search? Not super sure about that. So I might take New York 3-1 in that one. I'll take Surge probably 3-1 as well. I'll take OpTic 3-1. I don't know. I want to give Falcons a map in there somewhere. And, screw it, let's just run it at Heretics 3-1 and lock it in, baby, 3-1 fashion. Very much, but probably that's game 5, to be fair. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.